From the 19th of the 4th month of 1436, it's the 15th of the 8th month of 1441, by the way, as I record this, my initiation into the Second Circle of Eckankar on December 14th, 2014, or the 21st of the 2nd month of 1436, I was sent a letter that proved that Harold Klemp had no knowledge of my initiate report, that requested the second initiation, or what Darwin Gross called the light and sound initiation in Giver of the Gift. It also showed that spiritual services at P.O. Box 2000, Chanhassen, Minnesota, area code 55317, had no knowledge of at least that month's initiate report. It included a request slip to mail back requesting the second initiation, the only one Eckists are allowed to request. I had previously told them I was ready for as many outer initiations as they were willing to give me. I know. Welcome to the Wonderful World of Eck. Your membership guidebook by Harold Klemp says that initiations after the second usually come every 4 to 6 years, but Darwin Gross received numbers 2 through 9 in a period of less than 6 months, allowing him to take the role of Mahanta, the living Eckmaster. And you'll find him absent from the list to the point where it's people can spend years in Eckankar without finding out that Darwin Gross existed and was in the material as the Mahanta, the living Eckmaster, until that August of 1983 board meeting. Giver of the Gift calls the fifth initiation the soul initiation, and says they occur every 5 years unless there is a reason to make them later or earlier. The Eckankar court cases of the 1980s showed that the initiation schedule in Eckankar was almost always determined by computer alone. So much for outer initiations having inherent spiritual value. I took about a week to mail out the slip and received the response with as little as 1 day for processing. That letter referred me to what was sent to me on the July 21st, 2014. Your initiation in Eck reminded me to make another request for the second initiation. Did it tell me the purpose of initiation in Eck? Not really, because it tries to enforce a doctrine of how the alleged Mahanta, the living Eckmaster, is connecting the initiates to light and sound directly. This can be said to be true as far as he's in charge of the organization. And, you see it implied in the chart. And these actions include light and sound. The first initiation and those after the 8th initiation are said to come on the inner, but the 2nd through 8th initiations are outer ceremonies. The first initiation is supposed to come in a dream. Have you found any reason to think these ceremonies are unique? These ceremonies are unique in opening people spiritually or emotionally. They are certainly part of the Eck program of dividing life into stages. The Eck consecration ceremony for infants and little children, the Eck rite of passage around the age of 13 or puberty, the Eck wedding ceremony, and the Eck memorial service certainly perform those functions for the group at large. The ceremony is supposed to be simple and eloquent, but many report how complex and contradictory it is. People who abandoned Eckankar may tell you complex, may tell you how the beauty is what a person brings into the practices, rather than the styles and material themselves. As I said with starting the Eckankar 1 discourses by Harold Klemp, he admits that most of the benefit to the program is the experience of their spiritual exercises. They tell you to read Paul Twitchell's book, Stranger by the River, beforehand. Reading or listening to a book doesn't mean the characters in it or the spiritual leader promoting it are going to show up to go over it with you or take you to its scenes. Imagination and projection are useful tools, but let's not get carried away. What is the commitment I made as a second initiate, and what one they want you to make? I continually try to commit my life to God, so nothing is new there. Being a member may grant you access to material or even physical places that non-members may not get to see. As long as Eckankar has been around, anyone called Living Eckmaster was one to try to influence everyone he encountered physically. This is true with everyone, whether or not they admit it or not. I continually strive toward true living. In that respect, I will try to make clear the differences between how the Mahanta, the living Eckmaster, plays no more than an indirect role in dreams, insights, and other revelations. The same goes for anyone else you allow in your life. Now, I'm trying to distinguish where the quotes are, the soul, initiation, dreams, insights, other revelations. That's, I'm pointing out where exactly the quotes come from. The same goes for anyone else you allow in your life. I will try to live in spiritual ways that are in accord with what the Holy Spirit came with. In accord with what the Holy Spirit came with. I strive to be on the side of the unfallen angels or light beings. I want my spiritual affair to be towards God as a verb. If any of these three are what is meant by Ek, I agree. How did I change, and how did they want me to change? Whether it was one of the dreams that could be labeled as my first initiation or my second initiation, it seems neither myself nor others have noticed a tangible change in my personality or experiences. I do share my experiences of matters, and it that way. I've had some things to say, though. The claim is that people are better able to cope on a spiritual, mental, and emotional level. If anything, I see that Eckists are less able to handle situations as time goes on, and they get more initiations in Eckankar. They are taught to ignore shyness, guilt, shame, and fears. It is obvious that they still have them. People even show guilt and shame about matters that directly pertain to Eckankar. People renew their enthusiasm in the group through such things because they feel as if it proves their inner advancement. The outer certifications play a role in any group, but they seldom prove or provoke the awareness that is said to come with them, whether or not the individual ever feels it. Was I ready? People are taught to feel like they will be ready to be a second circle member of Eckankar by the end of their second year of discourses. Other initiations are left with a question mark as to how long it will be. So the idea is to always doubt your feelings and experiences until given context by letters from corporate. talk about a stuffed shirt. The main leadership of Eckankar seldom directly communicates with members outside the main offices, so how can an initiation permission slip be a sign that one is ready according to them? The spiritual sign is that they are supposed to know and interfere with anyone who isn't ready. Readily receiving initiations or roles of authority in Eckankar. The question about being ready depended on what they asked me to do, and if I had a blaspheme, or do deeds that I explicitly deem contrary to orthodoxy or orthopraxy. I talked with the initiator when scheduling the initiation and before the initiation itself. I was ready to walk out if I had a worship other than God, ascribe limits to God, or do something false or otherwise wrong. I was not ready to chant a secret word that asserted truth behind some Eckankar doctrines that I did not agree with. I was ready to abandon the initiation midway. The letter inviting me into the Second Circle was sent December 30th, 2014, and arrived January 2nd, 2015. Of course, I was ready to accept that some things are wide open. Like I keep pointing out how varied the use of the term ek is. The pink slip for initiation. Second circle might mean the astral plane or the first heaven is of the spiritual realms despite your physical presence. Or the second circle of Ek initiation is merging the physical into spirit. They print the copy of the signature in a different color of blue ink upon the pink slip to make people think that Harold Klemp plays a personal role in arranging the ceremonies. Even corporate signatures tend to be printed as form letters, is virtually all they send out. It stated that it was issued December 30th, 2014, and is valid till June 30th, 2015. And they put 30 December 2014, 30 June 2015. My Eckankar member number, EN, and my address was on the left. 354 is part of that number, and that is approximately the length of the sacred year, as it is 32 33rds of the length of the solar year are 354.37 days. Getting rumbly in the tumbly. If you don't hear that. And that is fitting for the fact that I refer to Al-Hijra dates. Instructions for replacing an expired slip is outside that, and make it sound like each initiation makes it possible to have more of God's love. I could understand that if one thinks of Suwar and Al-Quran as ranks of learning to attain to and living up to those ranks. According to the relevant court cases involving Eckankar, Ek initiations don't even represent degrees of learning, much less how much is practice. It is no wonder that I dreamt of the Eckmasters as fallen leaves or those not living up to their initiations. The pink slip reminds people that the Eckankar Corporation wants you to view their leader as an ever-present guidance in your life. How many actually believe this? Why would anyone in their right mind treat the leader of a corporation as being the source of all guidance that members of the corporation receive, one doesn't have to promise to keep it all secret, but they try to convince you how much of a violation of spiritual law it would be to discuss the initiation with anyone besides the person deemed to be the living Eckmaster. An exception is made for those present for the initiation. Although there's some minimizing of, not only is one careful about that, but, one is allowed to discuss the matter with one's spouse, even if they are not an Eckankar. One may talk it over with family who live in the same house, as the idea is you will practice those secrets in the same home. One may not have to hate your family for the sake of religion, as the Bible explicitly teaches in the New Testament. Or, well, they call it the New Testament. In the Old Testament, Tanakh is not intended as an Old Testament, although it's saying it's old, but you know what I mean. And the New Testament's pretty old too, so, But it shows integrity to stick to the spiritual path that one feels best, whether or not one's spouse or family finds it agreeable. It is good to resolve the issues, or agree to tolerance before advancing through the ranks of a spiritual organization. Families are allowed to take the second initiation together, but this is not so for higher initiates. Family of the same household may attend for mere observances. Families of the same household may attend for mere observance of the rite of the second initiation. Parents are allowed to explain the ritual to young children at a later time. Eckankar initiations may happen at the hand of a local leader designated as available for such. Arisa, our regional Eckankar spiritual aid. The appropriate venue at an Eckankar seminar, or someone at spiritual services and Eckankar spiritual campus. Now, it's also referred to as the regional Ek service agent. The form itself is to be brought. The initiator is supposed to make notes on the back of the form, and I will wonder about what exactly was said. The spiritual center processed the form in time to send out my membership materials for my third year in Eckankar that starts February 6th or 11th, 2015. The second initiation form was copyrighted in 1991, but federal law allows sharing of it for religious reasons. I will only talk about it to avoid the trouble that others have faced. I want to remind you that neither spiritual realms or concepts can be copyrighted or trademarked. I want to assure you that you are safe using terms from other languages, even if you don't spell or pronounce them correctly. The Eckankar Corporation may disagree, but they do not have a monopoly on any of these things. No matter what charts they put. I signed the line that I understood the instructions and the 4 precepts of Ek. I accept them, but only that they are the Eckankar basics. I accept them as the precepts of Ek. 1. But one God is the Illallah of the Shahada, our testimony of faith. I fully agree with that, and that Sugmad is the reality of that, if that means who we seek, and God is a noun. 2. I understand and accept that the Eckankar teaching is that whomever they deem to be a Mahanta is treated as a prophet of God. I don't agree he has such a special role in the physical world, much less the psychological and spiritual realms. 3. Those who are faithful and follow the works of God as a verb, if that is what ek means here, would have the inheritance of heaven. This would also be true if it meant being on the same side as the Holy Spirit or Gabriel, as Quran Surah 2, 97 through 98 mentions. I would not agree with it in the Eckankar specific context, as that seems to be the rejection of orthodox or correctly believing religion and rebellion spoken of in the following two verses. But 4. I don't follow Eckankar per se, so I don't have to worry about the issues of considering the Sharia Ki Sugmad as the holy book, with none above it. I know I can't change the fact that they won't consider one of God's scriptures, or even an adulterated form of one of them, as a greater spiritual authority. I wish that was not the case, but I seek to make that greater possibility in some ekkas. They ask the person being initiated to bathe fully and wear fresh clothes. I did such for Friday's Jumu'ah congregational Islamic weekly services, so I didn't have to do such special. Ritual bathing is good for a series of physical and psychological reasons. The same goes with preparing and designating clothing for a specific purpose. To those who don't know, I have two thobes, a shirt, and a pair of sweatpants that I printed with symbols that can specifically relate to Eckankar. They ask you to bring fruit or flowers as a gift to the initiator. Before I go on, bath salts, like, magnesium sulfate, that sort of stuff, not the bath salts, as people call it, is good, when you take a bath sometimes as a, maybe you can't take a bath and you take a shower and you sprinkle bath salts, or you sprinkle bath salts anyways, but ritual cleanliness is important. They ask you to bring fruit or flowers as a gift to the initiator. Fruit and flowers are symbols of taste and smell. They are symbols of transformation, but here it is as giving yourself to God. Donating to Eckankar is not an entirely voluntary and personal decision. To donate to Eckankar on the occasion of an initiation or another occasion when reminded that it is something some do, be honest and call it a recommendation. People are asked to abstain from drugs and alcohol for 6 months prior to an Ek initiation. Of course, that means smoking and certain legal drugs, although they do allow caffeine, although some people, I guess, they say you shouldn't have caffeine, but they recommend not using caffeine, but 6 months prior to an Ek initiation. This would be a good idea if enforced, but they even give initiations to people who never quit. I am not sure why they or anyone else lists drinking alcoholic beverages and doing drugs differently. Perhaps it is to distinguish between legal and illegal, but that essentially means nothing spiritually. The 4 Zoas of Ek are requested of higher initiates, are of those of the 5th circle and beyond are requested of those taking the 5th initiation. They are to abstain from gluttony, vanity and pride, dogma and karma, and always manifest the teachings of Eckankar. The third one, being firm about their beliefs or cause and effect. It's like you can't abstain from those things. Or maybe that's where things get really confusing, is you're trying to not hold to anything, but then again you're trying to hold to stuff. 1. To do more than not use intoxicants except for purely medical purposes gambling and other things, to not gamble and other things, as to not exist as a mere animal is clearly the best and most clear of the bunch. 2. Sometimes being unhappy is not a matter of choices. It is entirely appropriate to place blame, and speaking out or acting out against evils is often a good idea. 3. Love is fine, but all are constantly within a realm of cause and effect. Pretending that this concept and other Eckankar concepts are never rigidly held beliefs is ridiculous. 4. I don't see how even Harold Klemp, Darwin Gross, and Paul Twitchell perfectly embodied the contradictory jumble that is the Eckankar programming. The disciple of Eckankar might think they need a master in a human body, but I don't know how it has been shown except in terms of mere belief or faith. The Ek Initiate pamphlet claims the Mahanta personally are, through his Mahdis, connects the Chula with the sound current. No, the Mahanta to the sound current is a quote. The initiator may aid in engineering and experience in